when Dwight Howard lifted that 2020 championship trophy with the Los Angeles Lakers. It wasn't just another ring for another player. It was a redemption story that had been 7 long, grueling years in the making, a full-circle moment for a man once called Superman who had fallen so far that he was nearly forgotten. The same player, Kobe Bryant, once mocked as soft, was now standing on the NBA's biggest stage again. Not as a superstar, but as a humbled role player, averaging just 15 minutes a game. Yet the joy on Dwight's face wasn't about stats or spotlight, it was about survival, about finally waking up from the nightmare of his own making. Because make no mistake, Dwight's journey to that moment was anything but smooth. After leaving the Lakers in 2013, the league seemed to turn its back on him. Once feared and dominant, he became a symbol of wasted potential, a man everyone wanted to trade, to bench, or to forget. Coaches grew tired of his antics. Teammates tuned out his speeches. Fans mocked his smile. He was labeled a locker room cancer, and the whispers about his attitude were louder than any applause he could get for his performance. The same man who had been the face of the Orlando Magic, the league's Defensive Player of the Year 3 times in a row, and a global ambassador for fun, athletic basketball, had become the butt of endless jokes. But Dwight's story didn't begin in the chaos. It began as a miracle. His mother had suffered 7 miscarriages before giving birth to him. Dwight was born into faith, raised in a Christian home in Atlanta, with both parents involved in sports. His father, a tall, stern athletic director, and his mother, a former college basketball player, gave him the foundation for greatness. Yet as a child, Dwight wasn't the towering giant people would later see. At the start of 8th grade, he stood at just 5 feet 10, a skinny, unremarkable point guard. Nobody thought he'd even make varsity, let alone become the best big man in basketball. But nature had other plans. Over 2 years, he shot up nearly a foot in height, and suddenly, that same kid who used to get pushed around was now looking down on everyone. With his newfound size and speed, Dwight became unstoppable in high school. His combination of guard, agility, and center height made him a nightmare for opponents. But he was still thin, still raw, and still far from the muscular beast the world would later know. That all changed the day he met Charles Barkley. Barkley told him flat out he'd never make it to the NBA if he didn't bulk up. That single conversation lit a fire in Dwight. He started lifting with his father, building muscle, discipline, and identity. Within a few years, he became a physical marvel, strong, quick, and freakishly athletic. By his senior year, Dwight was a national sensation, leading his team to a 31-2 record and a state title, averaging 25 points, 18 rebounds, and 8 blocks per game. His dominance was so overwhelming that he skipped college altogether, declaring for the NBA draft straight out of high school, just like his idol, Kevin Garnett. In 2004, the Orlando Magic selected him first overall. The team had just traded away Tracy McGrady, and the franchise was desperate for a new identity. Dwight delivered it. From day one, he was fearless, banging with giants like Shaq, Yao Ming, and Tim Duncan. Despite being just a teenager, he averaged a double-double as a rookie, the youngest player in history to do so. Year after year, he added muscle, refined his defense, and embraced his role as the league's new Superman. He had the body of a tank and the personality of a showman. His smile was contagious, his dunks electrifying, and his confidence sky-high. By 2009, Dwight Howard wasn't just a great player, he was the best big man in basketball, a global icon, and the face of a revolutionary new Magic team built around spacing, shooting, and his dominance in the paint. That 2009 Orlando Magic team changed basketball. Long before the Warriors popularized the three-point barrage, the Magic were doing it first, surrounding Dwight with shooters like Rashard Lewis and Hito Turkoglu. Dwight's gravity pulled defenses apart, and his presence made it impossible to defend both the paint and the perimeter. He led the NBA in rebounds and blocks, won Defensive Player of the Year, and carried his team to the finals. And though they fell short against Kobe's Lakers, Dwight's performance was legendary. At just 23, he was at the top of the world. Endorsements, commercials, and highlight reels followed. Kids loved him. The league loved him. Everyone loved him more, so it seemed. But fame is a fragile thing. As quickly as he rose, Dwight began to fall. When the Magic couldn't repeat their finals success, frustration began to boil. Dwight wanted more touches, more shots, more control. He started feuding with coach Stan Van Gundy, and his desire to be seen as an offensive superstar began to overshadow his defensive brilliance. The Dwight, who once smiled through adversity, now scowled through interviews. His relationships with teammates soured, and when he demanded a trade, it marked the beginning of the end of his prime. In 2012, the Dwightmare was born. When he arrived in Los Angeles, fans thought he would revive the Lakers dynasty. With Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash, and Pau Gasol beside him, it looked like a but the chemistry was toxic. Dwight was still recovering from back surgery. His athleticism wasn't the same, and his easygoing nature clashed with Kobe's ruthless mentality. What followed was one of the most awkward seasons in Lakers history. Dwight wanted to be loved like Shaq, but he hadn't earned Kobe's respect. He wanted to be a leader, but he hadn't learned humility. That friction defined his time in LA, and when Kobe tore his Achilles and the season collapsed, Dwight bolted. The fans called him soft, the city booed him, and the Superman image shattered. In Houston, things looked briefly promising alongside James Harden, but the same issues resurfaced. He wanted more touches, more respect, more say. The game was changing, becoming faster, smaller, and more perimeter-focused, and Dwight refused to adapt. His partnership with Harden soured, and by 2016, he was no longer seen as a franchise cornerstone. His next stops, Atlanta, Charlotte, Washington, were humiliating. He bounced from team to team, each less successful than the last, with reports of teammates cheering when he got traded. The once beloved Superman had become basketball's unwanted traveler. His smile now looked out of place, his jokes fell flat, and his reputation seemed permanently stained. By 2019, Dwight Howard was done. No team wanted him, not even for the veterans minimum. But instead of giving up, he rebuilt himself physically, mentally, spiritually. He dropped weight, restructured his body, and finally accepted the truth. He wasn't the star anymore. He was the role player, the enforcer, the guy who set screens, caught lobs, and defended with pride. And when the Lakers came calling, offering him a non-guaranteed contract, Dwight promised he wouldn't waste it. Dwight Howard may never be universally loved. Some will always remember the drama, the ego, the immaturity. But those who watched him in his prime will never forget his dominance. The numbers don't lie. AWLNBA selections. 3. Defensive Player of the Year awards. More rebounds and blocks than most legends combined. His prime years with the Magic remain among the most dominant defensive stretches in NBA history. And though his smile faded through the chaos, it never truly disappeared. When Dwight finally lifted that trophy, it wasn't about proving Kobe wrong or silencing critics. It was about peace finally finding it after a lifetime of chasing approval. He had fallen, rebuilt himself, and climbed back up the hard way. And when the confetti fell in 2020, Superman was back, not flying above the rim, but standing tall, grounded, and grateful. So now the question is yours to answer. Do you think Dwight Howard deserves a place among the greats? Was his redemption enough to rewrite his legacy, or will he always be remembered as the star who lost his way? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.